Rajiva Wijesinha is a Member of Parliament and advisor on reconciliation to Sri Lanka's President. He joins us on the phone from the capital, Colombo. Thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera. This investigation, this inquiry, this report has really been extremely damaging on the Sri Lankan government and the behaviour of the military. Why won't the government now allow an independent investigation to come into Sri Lanka to really find out what happened?
Well, I think you've asked several questions. The first is about this ICEP report. And I have to say that the ICEP is really not a body of any standing. And unfortunately, they put on the ICEP one name I recognize, Gordon Wise, who self-confessedly has a grudge against the Sri Lankan government, as you would know from his book, The Cage. And if you've read or if you've bothered to look through my account of that book, you'll see a lot of misinformation in it. Your second point, however, is that the Sri Lankan government should have its own investigation, and it should do it not because of ICEP or Gordon Wise, who is, as I said, a very clear liar, but because our own LLRC, our Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission, has actually made that there are certain issues that need to be investigated further. And if you look at the different sections in the introduction, that's all I had time to read after you very kindly sent me the report, the executive summary, the main point on which they actually cite what seems to be the only case of first-hand evidence is with regard to the treatment of some surrendees, which, of course, the Sri Lankan government, LLRC, has already pointed.
So I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you because the one thing you are saying is that the Sri Lankans want to conduct their own investigation, but constantly we've heard international criticism that that is not credible and there has to be an independent body going in. But people are not going to sort of turn away until that is done, and indeed until somebody's held accountable in the Sri Lankan government.
I got your point. There seems to be an assumption in what you call the international community, which consists of a few Westerners, that anything we do is not independent.
Well, why don't you name a body, an international body that you trust to come in and do an inquiry? Why doesn't the Sri Lankan government say we trust that body?
There is no question of international bodies. We have made it very clear. I accept the need for an independent inquiry, but I reject totally the assumption that anything we do is not independent. How dare you insist on such matters?
But sir, your government's being accused, so how could it be independent? You're the ones that have been brought to book.
Well, my dear lady, in any country it is normal to have your own internal inquiry, and only if it doesn't seem to be independent you have it. We had allegations about LLRC. The Americans in particular were very nasty about it. When the report came out, they welcomed it. The British, the High Commissioner told me, well, we had our suspicions, but it's a very good report.
The British have called for an independent investigation. Their Prime Minister, David Cameron, has called for one.
Well, if you think David Cameron runs this world, I'm very sorry for you. David Cameron does not run this world. When he was talking rubbish here, Jacob Zuma, the President of South Africa, came and told us you should have an inquiry like the one we did. That was an internal thing.
So you won't accept anybody? It has to be only the government. You won't accept anybody else?
Sorry?
You wouldn't accept anybody else to come in and do an inquiry. It has to be the government of Sri Lanka.
We will not have international interference in Sri Lanka, just as I hope you in Qatar will not allow international interference. There is such a thing which is UN accepted of national sovereignty. But I agree about independence. What I'm trying to tell you is that when you have several allegations that nothing we do is independent, followed by bleatings of, oh, yes, this is okay. For instance, on the Disappearances Commission, one member of what you would call the international community said, well, I was suspicious about it. I saw the way they're working. I was very impressed.
Sir, can I ask you, you are in charge of reconciliation. Do you think this is really a way to reconcile Sri Lanka with an attitude towards nobody coming in?
I think we need to move more quickly on our own work, and I have said so repeatedly. I have also pointed out that there are other ways. It is not only about war crimes. I mean, you people in the West, and I'm sorry, Al Jazeera seems to have this disease as well now, which is a pity because you were so much more civilized during the war as opposed to Channel 4. But you people think everything is about war crimes. It's not. It's about reconciliation. And reconciliation has many aspects, including working with the survivors. We were criticized by Stephen Rapp. I was, recently talking to the High Commissioner of Rwanda, who said they have their own problems with Stephen Rapp, because the Americans have a one-size-fits-all for everybody except themselves, and don't you fall into that trap.
Okay, thank you very much for talking to us.
Reconciliation, it is not about vindictiveness, it is about working towards a common future.
Okay, Rajiva Wijesinha, thank you very much for giving us your thoughts on Al Jazeera.